Hey guys, it's Gary. I'm not really prepared to do a video, and yet I'm doing one. I have the day off work. Tomorrow I go back, and as you know, this job has really got me down. I don't see doing anything creative or anything as long as I have this position. I just can't. I freaking have nightmares about this job. I dream about my bosses and stuff like that. It's unbelievable. And as far as scheduling anything, I finally got my taxes done last week, which was a good thing, but I had to schedule and cancel 3 times because of work. Finally, the 4th time was literally the last day that my accountant was going to be in my state to do my taxes. And I told him at work, I said, I have to go get my taxes done or else I'm not going to be able to file. So, guys, it's been 3 months. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. Oh man. So, and it's just affecting everything. It's even affecting my enjoyment, obviously, when I'm not at work. What happens when I'm not at work? They call me into work anyway. So it's like, it's like when I go do laundry at my sister's house or something like that, I come back, I do it on one of my days off, which is always a weekday. I come back and sure enough, there's phone calls on the answering machine. They had called me into work while I was away at my sister's house, or, when I'm out food shopping or doing chores or going to the doctor's office or you name it, Yeah, it's got me down. I worked Easter Sunday, which was surprising. And people I think it was a pretty decent weather day. So in the afternoon, early afternoon, people were coming outside and people would see me while I was out there doing my work. And they'd be like, "You're working on Easter Sunday?" I'm like, yeah, not my choice. So anyway, I don't know, don't expect any music from me in the near future. Well, it's music and unemployment, music and a good job, but no music with this job, that's for sure. Most of what I've been listening to is an extension, really, lately, of the same stuff I talked about last time. There's this guy, Randall McClellan, which Vinyl Spin Jeff sent me a burned CD from a cassette, something that came out in the 80s, I want to say, like 2 25-minute pieces. Really good, droney synthesizer music. I've had that in my playlist for months and never really spoken about it. But it gets played every night. Apparently, this Randall McClellan doesn't seem like he's got a couple cassette albums that seem like never were released on CD. I've never heard of him because these things have been out of print forever. But Jeff had sent me a copy that he made that he uses to listen to himself, made from his old cassettes. Been listening to a Steve Joliffe album that Carm sent me. The Alex Farhood, that weird keyboard album that I'd heard one track of. I decided to order the whole album. The first one came defective. I ordered a second copy, got that. It's a good album, but it's weird because whoever Alex Farhood is, he composed the music, but he has different keyboard players and musicians playing it. And it's weird because it's not like it's an orchestral thing or anything like that. It sounds like the kind of album that would be performed by the guy that wrote it, kind of like a one-man all keyboard band thing. Every night, my Richard Lanehart albums are still in my playlist. The Jade Warrior at Peace album, the Ambient Eclipse multi-artist album that has Hiroki Akano on there. I mean, I want to do a Hiroki Akano thing, and for some reason I thought I slipped one by Carm, and I thought that would be somebody that Carm didn't know. And it seems like he may have the same CDs, albums of Hirokis that I have. And I don't even know how I discovered him. It was an accident, certainly. I pulled out a couple old Robert Schroeder things from the 80s, from the early 80s I was listening to. And generally, when I start off my playlist in the evenings, I do, I've been in the mood for some kind of classical thing. And rather conservative, I talked about the Vox boxes. I pulled out a couple of my Vox boxes. Here's another Vox box, 2 CD set only, but it's Ravel's complete work for orchestra. Pretty mainstream stuff, but I was in the mood to hear Bolero, the 17-minute piece that probably most folks know, and it's on at the end of one of the CDs on here. So I've had that playing. Quite conservative stuff though. Very conservative classical orchestral music. Definitely the kind of thing you could put on for mixed company or people that don't even like classical, because it's not like, oh, what's that weird stuff? It's very conventional stuff. Even actually more conventional than the Bolero piece itself. I found, the non-Bolero pieces on here. They are pretty conventional. I just don't know what else to say about it. Nice pieces. Hadn't played this in a little while. So I pulled that out. I'm really playing these all through my stereo, so unfortunately some of the things I play I can't even find the CDs from because I'm playing them out of my stereo. Thought I would show that. Came across this, and I'm only showing it because I haven't listened to it. The Talking Heads Remain in Light. This is one of, I think I bought 2 albums on vinyl of theirs back in the vinyl days before CDs. I didn't even know I bought this. And I just came across this in the pile, and everybody's been showing this and talking about this. I don't remember when I bought this. I know I bought it. It's just I don't recall. I don't recall when I did. It's not even loaded in my computer, so weird. And this is the only one of their albums that I ever bought on CD. But it's been going around the VC a bit lately. Somebody gifted it to somebody else. And the thing I like about this, I didn't even realize this until I just looked at it now. This is one of those dual disc things, which they stopped manufacturing. It's such a shame. It's good because it's got one side with the CD with the music on it, and a DVD side. And usually the DVD side is not like a full movie or a concert performance, but it's kind of like extras and stuff like that. I did one for Miles Davis's. Was it Kind of Blue? The Kind of Blue album. And I still want to pick that one up, though. I don't even know if it's out of print or not. And even though the material on the video side is minimal, like a short interview with the drummer, the only surviving member of the Kind of Blue band, and just a few extra program notes were on the video side. I still like the fact that it comes with extra stuff, and it's got that dual disc thing. It's such a shame the dual disc thing didn't really catch on. But I think it's unfortunately a download generation, not even a CD generation or an LP generation, but a download generation. And it's great to have a full CD on one side, flip it over, and put it in your DVD player and watch all kinds of things. Or even in this case, not only do they have some video stuff on the DVD side, but they have surround sound version of the album. I haven't listened to it. I keep coming across things, and I'm like, I could talk about that in a video, even though I haven't played them for a while. This is my contribution to maybe a little bit of a thread that Carm has, not quite a thread. I tend not to buy these, but I buy these albums where there's no performer. Gong is the name of this one, Meditations. And from what I recall, it's in my CD player, but it's not the thing that's playing in the background right now. And it's one of those new agey kind of albums that, it's well with a title like that and Meditations. Liner notes just really talk about meditation. It doesn't talk about the music itself. Simply says under here, file under nature with instrumental. I don't recall there being much nature sounds, but there's probably some birds chirping. It's from 2000, so a little bit later than most of the ones I think Carm shows. But no performer. There's not even a booklet. It's just blank on the opposite side. No performer name at all. Not even a producer's name that you could guess maybe the producer was the guy that wrote it. Wrote the music. Gong. But I remember liking it, and I'm sure it was a budget thing. I remember ordering it, I probably heard a sound sample. I don't know if it's it may be online, maybe on YouTube or something like that. So I think it's only about 40 minutes, a single piece. But it's one of those things that to me is very frustrating because you don't know really when it was recorded. You can kind of guess it was probably around the time it was released. But you know nothing about the musicians, who they are. There's probably one guy. So I tend to avoid these, but something I've got only a couple of them spread out all over the place, and I thought I would show it only because I found it, and this will go back into the stack and I might not see it for 10 years, as I come across others, I'll contribute. But I know Carm's quite a collector of quite a lot of these. And I got to admit, the ones that I have, I like. I just get frustrated by the fact that you don't know who the musicians are. What else? Apart from that, I'm going to include a link for a composer that's new to me, a classical composer. I've been listening to or looking for kind of avant-garde classical music, but not incredibly out there stuff, but rather stuff that's low key, that's got like a mood and an atmosphere. It isn't overly hyper, like Wagner's The Ring or something like that. Not like that. And I accidentally came across this guy, Alberto Ginastera, I guess is how you pronounce it, or Ginastera, Ginastera. I am going to try to remember to include a link. There's a whole bunch of his compositions up on YouTube in full. There's a lot of 20-minute compositions. I stumbled across one piece of music of his totally accidentally, because he wrote a piece called Popol Vuh, and I was looking at Popol Vuh, the band. I was looking for albums of theirs when this Popol Vuh album came up, simply as the name of the piece that Ginastera composed. And I like the cover, and it's one of those things that made me, I wonder what this sounds like, And I heard, I was able to play sound samples on whatever. It was probably Amazon, but there are other places. And then I went to YouTube, and I found the piece in whole, which, again, is I forget, like a 25-minute piece or whatever. There's a whole bunch of his pieces spread out on YouTube, and once you know the spelling of his name, they'll come up pretty easily. And it's kind of that classical type of music, orchestral stuff. He was an Argentinian composer who died in 1983, I think in the 70s. I mean, he was born in 1916, died in 1983. So, I mean, fairly, contemporary, recent times. And of the two or three things that I've heard in full from him, I really like. They're not weird, but they're dark and they're slow, and most of them, most of the time, don't go into the typical up-tempo classical stuff that you expect from orchestral music. So I'm going to include a link, and but once you know how to spell his name, there's a ton of stuff on YouTube. And I'm going to create a little folder for myself and start putting his works in there. And I'm going to try to remember to link that folder. Right now, there's only 2 works in there. But I'm really digging him. And I'm going to, he's definitely now on my wish list of things to pick up. The only other thing, orchestral-wise, that I've heard, which is a little further out than the Ginastera stuff, is this is a particular favorite. When I want to hear weird classical music, this Arnold Schoenberg disc. It's a cool cover. I just bought this off the cuff. I knew nothing about the piece. It's sometimes I gotta give them sometimes some record companies. This is Teldec record company. Here's the box it comes in. Sometimes record companies really treat the music with the with the respect that it deserves. The CD comes in this box. Here's the CD. But almost the width of the entire CD is this entire booklet that also comes in the box. A lot of pages, a lot of information in here. It's just a lot of stuff, on the composer, on the piece. It's literally a whole book. And I've had this for many years. I don't remember when and where I bought it. But it's a really good album. It's really dark, not at all the kind of stuff that you would play in mixed company. Say, oh, let's put some orchestral music in the background, because they definitely say, what the hell is that? But man, I really love it. I was kind of looking for more stuff along those lines when I came across Ginastera, but it's not in that weirdness league. The Ginastera stuff kind of sounds like it could be used even in a movie soundtrack, in a dark, noirish, kind of really good, moody film. But this is one of my favorites that I just thought I would show in terms of classical music. When I want to hear weird classical music, this is like my, it's a go-to album. There's no theme here, Now, I think it was Carm. Carm showed a vinyl album recently. I'm sure it was Carm, on one of his recent videos. And he showed the label of it. And I'm like, oh, whatever record label that is, I have an album like that, because one side of the label was a standard on the actual record itself. I guess listed the tracks on both sides of the album. When you flip it over, the other side of the label has this really cool picture that I liked. It was like a cartoon of a guy wearing like a sombrero, like a cartoon character wearing a sombrero, just like floating in space or whatever. And it's like a black background, and the guy, who I think was like silver or white, all the lines that draw the character with this big sombrero. And I was like, oh, I love that logo. And I have one album with that logo. And I thought I knew what album it was. So I went and I dug out the album, which is Tim Blake, the synthesizer player from Gong. His 1977 solo album, actually his first solo album, Crystal Machine, which is just him, mostly in live performance. As far as I know, he's only done 2 really instrumental albums. He kind of went in a more vocal rockish direction after this. Most of this album, it's definitely in the 70s solo synthesizer thing. He comes from Gong, and he's been playing in Hawkwind now for a bunch of years. And so he probably comes from a bit more of a rock thing. And I believe with his second album, he started incorporating a lot of vocals into his music, and he lost me. But then a few years later, or I should say in the last 10, 15 years, he recorded a second CD of all instrumental music, which I can't find here, but I'll show it when I have. That's really good. It's the only other album of his that really are just all instrumental. I say mostly instrumental, mostly in that electronic mode. He sings on one song here. It's almost like a chant. And the weird thing is, it's probably the weakest thing on here, and it's a short album. It's only like 18 minutes per side. And I actually did, and I'm glad I did. I bought the CD of this, and it was very hard to get a hold of, and everything is out of print now. For some reason, Tim Blake himself doesn't want these things in print. He wants them to be available only as download, according to something he said, I think on his Facebook page or someplace. And to me, I don't understand why an artist would not want their music available in some kind of physical format. Carry it with you on a trip, in your car. But I bought this, being a little bit of a Gong fan, and I thought, oh, this is interesting, hearing him just solo on synthesizer. So there was one track at the end where he starts kind of like improvising this vocal chant. And the thing that surprised me was his voice sounds identical to David Allen. That really freaked me out. And I thought, wow, when David Allen left Gong, had Tim Blake stayed in Gong, which he left for some reason right at the same time that David Allen left, he could have been the vocalist, and you would have heard him sing the David Allen songs from a little bit that you hear on here, and him sing this vocal chant, and I don't think you would have even noticed it wasn't David Allen. Really weird. And I remember when I first bought this album, and I bought this in like 78. I remember the store this is one of those albums, I remember the store that I bought it in. I remember the night I bought it. I remember going home and playing it. Pretty much was what I had hoped for, what I expected, until the little vocal thing comes on. at the end of one track, and I started looking at the album credits to see if David Allen like made a guest appearance and came on stage and just like improvised this vocal thing, because that particular track is from a concert, I think. But no, apparently it was all Tim. He doesn't, he doesn't even, the weird thing is he doesn't even credit himself with singing, but with vocalizing, but there's nobody else playing. Just a light show guy. There's a laser light show guy. I'm glad I bought this on CD when I did. It was kind of expensive and not easy to get. And now apparently is that a print? Because the vinyl's a little worn, just from playing it a bunch. But I thought this album was the one. The reason I pulled it out was because I thought this was the one that had that guy with the sombrero on it. I was 100% sure that this was the album. And I pulled it out, and it's not. It's not. It's got... Maybe I thought it was because, like the guy with the sombrero album, it's got the tracks on one side. It's got the Egg Records logo on the other side. But that's nothing special, really. But now, I'm at a total loss. I'm like, so what is that album with the guy with the sombrero on it? I love that character art, and I'm absolutely sure that I've only got one record on that label with that guy with the sombrero. Maybe they just... use that logo for, a year or two or something. Now I can get the record back in the sleeve. But now I'm at a complete loss at what that record label was, what that album was. I don't know. But while I was, looking around for my Tim Blake album, I came across this, which I knew I had. Nick Mason. I was a little surprised I bought this, actually, at the time. Nick Mason's Fictitious Sports. Nick Mason, the drummer for Pink Floyd. He only made 2 solo albums. I have both on vinyl, and I have one of them's called Profiles, which came out on CD. I could be wrong. I don't think this was re-released on CD. The interesting thing with this album is it's a Carla Bley album, really. Carla Bley wrote all the material. It's got her band on it, and it was recorded in her studio in upstate New York, or her studio at the time. Grog Hill Studio, Willow, New York. In 80, well, this came out in 81, so it's probably recorded in 80 or 81. It's basically Carla Bley's band, with Mike Mantler on trumpets, Steve Swallow on bass, and Nick Mason just plays drums. He didn't compose anything on here, so it's really weird that it would come out under his own name. It's not a great album. But then again, I'm not... I like Carla Bley's stuff. I like a lot of her stuff, but there's things that she's done that are way over my head. And this is one of them. And I can see my computer slowing down again. Why does this do that? But this also has Robert Wyatt on it. Chris Spedding on guitars. Gary Valente on trombones. And Carla on keyboards, of course. So... I think this whole thing I found recently on YouTube, so you can actually listen to it. Definitely sounds nothing like a rock album, like you would expect from a Nick Mason solo album. And with Nick's involvement, there's not even a drum solo or anything in here. You could have named it after any other musician that played on the album. It's really a Carla Bley album. You could just as easily called it a Steve Swallow album. Thought that was interesting. Came across this. This is what I bought. You know who Dave Greenslade is? He's like a he had his own band called Greenslade, which I don't have any of their albums by. I heard some stuff online. I know he's kind of like a respected kind of in the prog rock area, keyboard player. And he had this band Greenslade, which I believe had 2 keyboard players and vocals. It was a vocal band. I always read about him. I always saw his albums in the 70s and 80s. With Greenslade, and I was meant to pick something up by him, but I didn't particularly want a Greenslade album. This may be the only. I think I might have one other by him, but I'm not sure. This one looked the most interesting because it's all him solo, just all instrumental. I love the cover. All instrumental. So it's all keyboards. 1999. All titles composed, arranged, and performed by David Greenslade in July 1999. It's not as jazzy or maybe contemplative, as I hoped it might be. You could definitely tell he's got a a rockish background. It's maybe a little bit more up tempo than I hope, but if you look at it from the point of view of it being a instrumental solo keyboard album from a guy who's based in rock, but kind of has abilities beyond that, it's a really good album. And I haven't played it for a while. I'm going to play it when this video is done. But it's one of his more obscure albums, it turns out, because on a tiny little label, and he's recorded a bunch. And I wouldn't know what else to suggest to pick up by him. I like this. I used to play this one at work a lot because it's not weird sounding. So if people heard it, they wouldn't think anything. It's up tempo enough not to make you kind of tired. I used to play it at work like in an office job, like playing it at your desk kind of thing. Where sometimes if you were tired, you don't want to play stuff that's too mellow. Nice little 45-minute album if you can find it, or I don't know, maybe the tracks are on, maybe even some of the tracks are up on YouTube for you to hear. I just kind of liked it. And the thing that's playing in the background, I'll show the CD. There's a series of CDs. I can't find any of the others that I have, and I know I have at least 2 others. Now, this particular person, who I was completely unfamiliar with, I think I heard sound samples. I ordered it off of there, is Mitsuyo Komiya, Komiya. Mizu Komiya. So, Japanese artist. An album called Color from the 1990s. I can't read the year because of the way 1990 something. And apparently, I should have done a little more work looking into this. Apparently, though, what this is a little label. I got to turn the light up because I can't read anything here. There's a label that I don't think is around anymore, called Pacific Moon Records. And I'm pretty sure this album, which has the broken cover, so 2 pieces, it has the information in Japanese, actually. Little insert, oddly enough. It doesn't give a whole lot of information, but it's just performed by this one musician, by Mizu Komiya, who didn't necessarily write. A lot of the pieces on this album were written by other people, but were entirely played, according to this, by Mizu Komiya. I got into this, I guess, through a sound sample I heard. What this album is, and the others I heard, this is the only one that I have by this artist, but not the only one on this label that I have. What it is it's koto music, so like the traditional Japanese koto stringed instrument. I don't know if you can hear it in the background or not. But there's a lot of studio processing involved. So if you're familiar with Coyote Oldman, how they take their flutes and process them, there's a lot of that going on. There's also a lot of keyboard synthesizer in the background creating a bass, which is absolutely perfect for the koto to play over. And it continues through the whole album. And really, you can't even really tell unless you're paying really close attention where one piece ends and the other begins. It's just this whole long, 55-minute thing. And so it's like they took this koto, this ancient Japanese instrument, which I love, and I have many all-acoustic recordings of it in a more traditional, conventional setting. And they have these soft synthesizer layerings in the background. And it seems, because I have a couple other releases on this Pacific Moon label by other artists, and they all seem to follow that path. They have traditional instruments, and I think they're all Japanese from what I'm trying to recall. I can't find the other 2 CDs I have on this label. And I think they're all recorded in the 1990s. And they all pretty much feature a traditional instrument backed with some mild either synthesizer or studio processing, which creates this great ambience to the album. And if you ever come across it, man, I highly recommend this. Carm would eat this up, I'm sure of. And when I come across the other CDs I have by other artists in the set, I'm going to show them, and I'll probably play them in the background because they're great. Sadly, I don't think Pacific Moon exists anymore. I remember getting these, at least one of these I got during mail order. This is before the internet. Or at least before, well, 1998, this one it looks like is from. So, at least, you couldn't buy things to that extent on the internet, I guess. I was still doing mail order at that time. One really, 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 really cool thing about this label. I don't know if you can see this. And I didn't know they did this until I got it. You see inside the, what do you call it? Like the spine, you have to open it, pull this thing open. There's incense sticks and this record label, and you can barely smell them because the plastic is so sealed on here. But the idea is you're supposed to take the incense sticks out and burn them when you listen to the music. I never did. I kept them in here. And what I used to do is when I put on the CD, I would just crack this open so that the smell did get in the room, which it does because this is really a good seal on here. This plastic thing is sealed real well. So you have to pull apart the plastic off of here to get to them. But they did this with every one of their releases, at least in this series, all three of them that I have. And I didn't even realize a couple of them at the time when I ordered them were on the same label. I ordered them, and I looked, and there's this clear thing, and sure enough, there's another batch of incense sticks in there. How cool is that? And sadly, I don't think this, and all these incense sticks now are, almost 20 years old, or 1998, 1999, so it goes back a ways. But they all did that, and I got to looky-see if Pacific Moon is still around. And that's the total random stuff. I guess maybe my theme is random number one. I don't know. I don't know. I did a video because it's getting toward the end of my day here, my day off, and I am supposed to have this Sunday off, but that's changed before, and so I don't know. I just don't know when I'll get back. And honestly, I almost didn't get this video recorded. This job has me so down, but I want to communicate with my friends, and the other day, last night actually, Colin Quigley did a live stream, and he's done 3 of them, and I missed the first 2. And I got the one last night, and Carmen and I were sitting in there with Colin, just going back and forth on Messenger. Great time. And it would be great if some of the other regulars that see my videos could be there as well, as my 2 good buddies. So it'd be great if Rob from Boston could be in there, and Andrew's in LA, so that's going to be tough. That's a 3-hour difference for him. Jeff, Vinyl Spin, who hasn't been around as much lately. All those guys, man, it would be great to have them there in one of Colin's things. So look for Colin Quigley. If you don't subscribe to him, if he's not in your list, throw him in there. And just wanted to say hi. Hope everybody's doing well. I'll try to remember to leave that link for Alberto Ginastera. Incredible music. And I'll be back as soon as I can, guys. And that's it. So hope you can hear a little bit of music in the background. It's gotten very quiet. And I'll be back eventually. Take care.